Well, this is really by way of an experiment. I want to show you a canceller, one that we know in our Sarawak collections as the Star canceller, but which was used all over the British Commonwealth and in the UK. Now, the box that I've got here, a rather battered old box, is the box in which the post office official would have received his canceller and the equipment to go with it. So if we open the lid, then not perhaps surprisingly, we see here the canceller. This is an old British one from Falmouth in Cornwall. But it's the same pattern, it's 23.5 millimeters and so on. And you can see in the box, here are all the slugs. And I hope it's clear enough that you can see that across the top, we have the first 6 months of the year. You'll realize, of course, that they're in mirror writing. So over here we have January, JA, February, FE, and so on, 6 of those, and then the second half of the year beneath it. So that was your months. And then here we have 3 rows of 11. One might expect 10, but it's 3 rows of 11 square holes in which the numbers were put, 31 days in a year, in a month, in the longest months. So one needs 1 to 31. And the box that I have here, the slugs are in fact not quite complete. They're also not quite a perfect match. So I think there's been some tinkering around after this councillor was retired. And then finally, we have here a row again of 11 year slugs. And many of us have noticed over the years in looking that in years like 1950 and 60, you can see small changes in the font. And occasionally one suspects that when they didn't get a full set of 10 delivered, that by one means or another, they manufactured locally a year slug to keep them going. And so small 1950s are by no means uncommon. And there are other years when one particular office may have had, for example, a serifed figure. And this suggests that the supply of 10 for the next decade didn't reach the office. So this is the canceller, and it comprises a wooden handle and then the head here, which you can see. What I'm going to do is basically to undo the screws and show you the inside of the canceller. I imagine there would have been a small kit of tools that came with this. One of them would have been a key which operates this. In the absence of the key, my scissors will do the job, and we undo this screw, and it has to be turned quite a number of times before it comes out. And what we will see is when the screw is removed, that it was screwed onto a rod that goes right through the middle of the canceller. And so as we draw out this end, when you start to explore why the various pieces are here, this is fixed. This goes into the head of the canceller, and this extension here is to prevent it turning as the small screw, which is the retaining screw, while that screw is being done up and undone. As we draw it out, you'll see that there is also a spring, and I have been trying to work out the purpose of the spring, and I don't think I yet understand what the spring is for. But this you can see if I hold it at the right angle. I think you may be able to see No, there's not quite enough light, but that rod goes right through and holds the top in place. And you'll notice that here we have a notch, and that marks the top of the cancel. So when the clerk picks this up in their hand, that notch is where the top of the cancel is, so the name is at the top, and also the retaining screw is also in line with it. Now, the next thing we do, you'll see there's a knurled ring here, and if we turn it half a turn, then the top comes off, and you can see here that essentially there is a slot into which this goes, and then a quarter turn puts it in line. So you can lift that out, and this is all solid. This is fixed firmly to the handle. The piece that, of course, interests us as stamp collectors is where the slugs go, and one of them has just fallen out. You can see here, I hope, we have a duty letter, letter E, and that's in the place where, of course, very often in Sarawak we had the star symbol. Only, as you know, Kuching, Cebu and Miri from 1966 onwards had letters. And then beneath it, we have the months, if I perhaps hold it just into the light, but you can see the 7 there of the day. Next to it is the month, which is rather dark, and the year slug at the bottom. I suspect that the kit, in addition to the key for undo that screw, I suspect there was a stiff brush, because just playing around with this cancel, it picks up quite a lot of fluff, and I think the clerks would have needed periodically to give it a quick brush over in order to clean up the image. If we turn it over, then this is the back, and these obviously are the 4 slugs. Again, the notch here tells us this is the top. Therefore, this one, the first one here, is the duty letter or the star. And you can see also, perhaps, the way these move around, why stars particularly got lost at various times. Now, the next thing to notice is with this slug, I hope you can see that on the top, yes, you can see it there, on the top, the top is actually flattened so that it's slightly larger than the shaft which has the letter. And of course, the reason for that is the obvious one, that it prevents the slugs dropping through. It's interesting on this cancel that the year slug is removable, but it's very stiff. And of course, that, if this canceller was used for 20 years, that was probably only changed 20 times, whereas the other slugs would have been, well, the day number, which I think, no, that's the month, sorry. Not used to my left and right yet. Here is the day. This is 7 on this one. And what we would do if we were the clerk is that we would put 7 back. There's 2 7s in this box, and we would then get out number 8, which we've got here. There you are. And we drop that in. Now, one of the things you'll realize is, of course, that these slugs are all the same size. And that's undoubtedly why in the early days in Sarawak in 1947 and 48, particularly in some of the small villages in the kampongs, the clerks, perhaps in the absence of instructions, arranged the various slugs in different places, because they are literally interchangeable. So we've now moved it from the 7th to the 8th, and we now, without turning it upside down so they don't fall out, we now put the slugs, we put the handle back onto the head, we put the locking pin back in place, the slightly mysterious spring goes on, and we then have the final locking screw to go in place, and we can do that up. Well, I won't take more time now doing that, and I think we can look again at this at the close of the meeting in the questions. But that is how the clerk changes the day. So it's a simple enough job to do, but if you were doing it in a poorly lit area and so on, you can see why over the years we do find examples of months that have been inserted upside down. I've wondered, for example, why the slug is rectangular. It certainly makes it simpler to manufacture, but if it had some mark on it, then a notch, for example, even a small notch, would mean you would know which was the top and which was the bottom of each of the slugs. I will talk when this short video is finished. I'll talk a little bit about some of the issues, but I hope by actually making this video and showing it to you that it's helped you actually understand the makeup. There is a couple more things to say. There were a number of manufacturers. The label here of this box says George de Lacy and Son, and I believe with all this muck which has come off the slugs here, somewhere under there, my recollection was I actually found the word Birmingham, which would not be surprising. And it's possible that this box, although obviously made for post office councillors, whether this was the original box for this councillor, I don't know. The awards to George de Lacy are, you can see there, a prize at the 1867 International Exhibition, one from Paris, I think, on this side, again from the same era. But this is a wooden box. I do know that at least in West Africa, the boxes were made of metal because it avoided insect infestation getting into the box and destroying the box. But this is a Star Cancel, as I say, a British one, but I hope that's helped understand the process and actually appreciate the tools that the clerk had.